Greetings, friends and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Fire and Ice, the official podcast of your Coachella Valley Firebirds of the American Hockey League. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California, a mere Chris Drieger, glove side away from the Birds' home ice of Acrisure Arena. I'm your host, Judd Spicer, along with this broadcast endeavor, which goes as long as the birds fly. Also, again, have the privilege and the pleasure of again serving as your Firebirds insider for this sophomore season. Those Firebirds insider articles, which includes, not limited to, but now includes playoff preview, the Pac Division Finals, Birds versus Rain. More on that momentarily, as you probably gather. That article and those articles may be found online at cvfirebirds.com. That's your home. That's your hub for all things Coachella Valley Firebirds, including, certainly not limited to, tickets, roster, merchandise, community information. Per those tickets and all things happening at the Birds Barn of Acrisure Arena, might I also suggest downloading the handy CV Firebirds app on your mobile device. Per the presenting sponsor of this endeavor, Desert Willow Golf Resort, home to the Mountain View and Firecliff courses respectively, though per the latter, the Firecliff now undergoing a renovation, doing some work on the greens. I believe it's a conversion to mini verde, Bermuda grass, for what that's worth, and also some leveling of the tee boxes. But fear not, when you go over there and you make your tee time, by the way, at desertwillow.com, when you head over to the Mountain View course, you're going to find one of the finest public access municipal golf courses, not just here in sunny SoCal, but the entire West Coast. Oh, and when you're poking around the grounds or on desertwillow.com, also going to want to check out the on-site and awesome Palm Desert Golf Academy for all your swing tutelage needs. All right, deep in the throes here, friends, of the playoff season. Joining me shortly to discuss as much, one of the standouts of the series victory over Calgary, and surely all season long, veteran Devin Shore will be joining me on this episode of Fire and Ice. Before we get to that visit with Devin, let's both take a look back and also a look forward to the Pac Division Finals. Per the rear view mirror, as regular listeners and fans will know, round 2 against the Calgary Wranglers. It's funny, I think I'd borrow from Ferris Bueller a little bit. Per the playoffs, life moves pretty fast. Seems like but a blur ago, only about 10 days though, that the Birds were on the brink, almost falling in Game 2 of that series to go behind 0-2. Of course, late goal by Max McCormick, and then an overtime winner by this episode's guest, Devin Shore. Even that series, Birds came back following the most recent episode, that media roundtable episode of Fire and Ice. Birds came back to Palm Desert to take games 3 and 4 respectively. Per the latter, that game 4 was awesome. Total graduation of performance for the Birds, and a fine 31 save shutout for Chris Drieger to grab that series. But again, seems like a lifetime ago, but a blur ago that we were nearly down 0-2, and we were sweating it. Fine fortitude for the Birds to come back in that series, win 3 straight games against Dustin Wolf, last year's AHL MVP and the Goalie of the Year winner the last 2 seasons, to grab that series versus the Wranglers, get back to the Pac Division Finals, and now a defense of that banner versus the I-10 rival Ontario Reign. As for that Calgary series, quick wrap-up. Birds received goals from 10 different players. Discuss that in the breakdown of the Birds versus Ontario preview. Again, you can find that at cvfirebirds.com. Goals from 10 different players, led by a trio apiece from Captain Max McCormick, and again, this episode's guest, Devin Shore. Chris Drieger started and played throughout all 4 games of the series, amassing a 3-1 record in concert with a 2.43 goals against in the series against the Wranglers and a save percentage of .920. And now we move on. Deeper and deeper we go. Higher and higher the Birds fly into these Calder Cup playoffs. Best of 5 series against the Ontario Reign. First time in the Birds' brief history with the 2-2-1 format. And that's how it should be, friends. The AHL, as discussed many times on this program, can get funky with the scheduling. We finally have the 2-2-1. That's how it should be played. 2 at home, 2 away if needed. Game 5 back at home if needed. The schedule plays out thusly. Wednesday, May 15th, Game 1 of the series, Ontario at Coachella Valley. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop. Get right back at it. This Friday, May 17th, Ontario at CV. Another 7 p.m. start. The series then moves a mere 80 miles down the road to Ontario and Toyota Arena. Coachella Valley at Ontario this Sunday, May 19th. And that is an evening puck drop, also at 7 p.m. If necessary, Friday, May 24th, got a brief break in between Games 3 and, if necessary, Game 4, Coachella Valley at Ontario. And I trust the Birds will come home between those games. Not going to stay in Ontario for 3 nights, for God's sake. Friday, May 24th, another 7 p.m. start. And then, if necessary, a deciding Game 5, the series would move back here to Palm Desert, Ontario at CV. That game on Sunday, May 26th, if necessary, would be a 3 p.m. puck drop. Interesting series for many, many different reasons, not simply limited to proximity, but per the distance, the brief distance between the two. For the Firebirds fans listening, interested in going to Ontario, you can get your tickets for Toyota Arena, by the way, at OntarioReign.com. Yeah, of course, there's going to be a lot of black and silver in those stands, but let's also fill it up with some red. Let's represent at their house, based on if past performance is indicative of a future attendance. Yeah, in some of the games over the last 2 seasons, we have seen some black and silver contingent. Ontario fans, they've got a dedicated fan base. Ontario fans coming to our games here at Acrisure Arena, they've made the brief travel. Let's do the same. All right, over the course of this season, Birds went 4-2-2 versus Ontario. The Reign, of course, took the first 2 games in the seasonal series, including a very forgettable, a game we never want to mention again, 6-0 win just before Thanksgiving at Acrisure Arena. Probably the worst game in the history of our barn. Again, let's forget all about that, and let's instead discuss the fact that of the series this year, the 8 games, Coachella Valley did win 3 of the final 4 versus Ontario this year. But a lot of good games, a lot of close games. Ontario was solid. They finished as the number 3 seed in the pack. They won 8 of their last 10 regular season games. Segued that right into the playoffs. They have probably been the best team in the American Hockey League in these Calder Cup playoffs, going a spotless 5-0 with respective series wins over Bakersfield, which they beat in a best of 3, and then sweeping Abbotsford in 3 consecutive games in that round 2 best of 5 series. But hey, the Birds aren't Bakersfield. The Birds aren't Abbotsford. Yeah, the series is going to get tougher for all teams, but it's certainly going to get tougher for Ontario. And their young, standout, 23-year-old Swedish goalie, Eric Portillo, who has been exceptional thus far into the playoffs. More against the Birds' chances against the Reign and Portillo again in the CV Firebirds versus Reign playoff preview to be found online at cvfirebirds.com. A lot more stats, a lot more details, more analysis, discussion, and yes, a prediction to be found in that article as well. Little carrot dangle there because, yeah, I want you to go read the article. I'm not just going to regurgitate it on this program. In lieu, and instead, let us cease for a moment and let us get to this episode's visit with our guest, Firebirds center, Devin Shore. All right, Firebirds friends, as prefaced at the outset of this episode, my guest in this edition of the Fire and Ice podcast, he's a native of Ajax, Ontario, now in his 10th season of professional hockey. Welcome, center Devin Shore, back to the Fire and Ice podcast. Hello, Devin.
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming back, I should say. You remember the last time you were on the show?
Yeah, I think I had just got called up that day. to be
Okay.
honest. Yeah. But I do remember that I was still in the hotel, but I remember it. Yeah,
Yeah, good memory. Almost 7 months ago to the day, which is to say that the season is extended, which is, of course, a good thing. And good things happen. Yeah, you and I recorded the episode, I think, on October the 18th. And then a couple hours after I put it out on the 19th, we got called up by
yeah,
Seattle. So just there's a foundation of good vibes, after you come on the Fire and Ice podcast.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you coming back during this playoff season for the Firebirds. Let's start with this one, man. Kind of in the interim between rounds 2 and 3, respectively. Are you spending this time, you personally? I mean, are you spending these days looking back on what was a little bit in the victory over Calgary, or are you full on looking forward to round 3 versus Ontario at this stage?
I think it's full on looking forward. We definitely we did a great job against Calgary. We enjoyed that series win mostly the kind of the night of, like the night after that game. We got together as a group, and it was fun to kind of reflect and be appreciative for our accomplishments as a team. And then you wake up the next morning and you flip the page pretty quickly. Off the ice, you get your rest and you heal up on whatever little nicks and bruises you may have, and then as a group we're preparing tactically and making sure we're sharp out in practice and just looking to Ontario.
Mentioned that it's your 10th year in professional hockey, played 447 NHL games, regular season and playoffs, 93 more games in the American Hockey League. Again, that's regular season and playoffs combined. I state that as, one might think for a guy like yourself, AHL postseason, third round, like, yeah, maybe kind of been there, done that. But if our crack research team is correct, this is the farthest you've ever been in a playoffs, correct?
Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago when I was with Edmonton, we made it to the conference final, which was awesome. But I didn't play any of those games, right? So as far as games played and whatnot, that would be true. And so it's been a lot of fun. Everyone's a part of it, and all the work we did to get to where we are during the regular season. Everyone has a hand in it, and my teammates were great when I wasn't playing. You still feel like you're a part of the team and a big like it is one team moving forward. And now being here, I hope that I send that message across, to guys that aren't in the lineup for us right now too, because I know what it feels like to be in their shoes, and I know how good of players they are. So it's cool to kind of be on both parts of that. But as far as kind of being a regular in the lineup, yeah, this would be the furthest I've been, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I guess I've mentioned as much to establish that even for a veteran like yourself, a decade's worth of pro hockey, that being this deep, I mean, hell, there are 24 AHL teams already. Their guys they're playing golf at this point. So, for you, even for an established veteran player, NHL player, this must still be a special time for you, I guess.
Definitely, it is the most fun type of hockey you can play in a season, and the regular season such a long grind. So to get here and to really be present in situations like this, I think is really important, and you absolutely don't take it for granted. There's so much parity both in the NHL and the AHL, and you just don't. There's so many unknowns in hockey. You don't know when you're going to have an opportunity like this again. So you try to make the most of it, and like I said, be in the moment and have as much fun as you can along the way.
No, you said that, and understandably so, as we tick tock till puck drop, game one of Firebirds in Ontario for the Pac Division Championship. I know you're prepping for that and focusing on that. I do want to look back a little bit at the Calgary series. Uh, I guess I can reference the watch party, Spotlight 29 Casino for game two, and the fact that there were a lot of people there, man. And I think we were all collectively sweating that game when the Firebirds were down a goal with just 5 minutes left to play, rather, and threatening to be down 0-2 in that series. And obviously, what ensued was a goal from Max McCormick. Whether it went off his skate or not, I could give a damn. Uh, that obviously tied it up, and then your goal in overtime to ultimately even the series and give the Firebirds the win. As I charted in the Firebirds' brief but brilliant history, that's a top five goal. That's a top five most important all-time goal for you. Do you kind of chart moments like that? Do you rank moments like that personally in your own career?
Yeah, you definitely. I don't know if you kind of actively chart them or if you have a running list, but I'd be comfortable saying that was the biggest goal I've scored in my life for sure. That was a thrill. I'd scored one overtime goal previously in my life, and it was a regular season 3-on-3 goal. So yeah, when like in a short 5 game series, that was a big win for us, and it was a really cool experience, something I'll remember forever.
And that's, I know that people listen to this, and that certainly has my ears perked. That again, for a veteran such as yourselves, who reference how many games you played, the last time you visited, we talked about with whom you've played, some just terrific and legendary NHL stars. For you to say that's the biggest goal of your life, that means a lot. That's going to mean a lot to the people that listen to this, Devin.
Cool. Yeah, no, and that makes me smile. That's nice to hear. I appreciate you saying that. But it's the truth. Yeah, anytime the things just mean a little more in the playoffs, and yeah, that was a fun one for sure.
Was there a moment that that goal usurped that you had long held close personally that had maybe been your most important goal or most important hockey moment that that goal overtook?
Yeah, I guess like we won a provincial championship when I was 10, and I scored some big goals in that one. So I always look back on that, and I guess if we're talking about our my professional career,
Now let's talk about more when you were 10.
yeah, no, yeah, we won.
Great memory.
Yeah, we were big underdogs, and I scored a goal 3-on-5. That was big. So um, I don't think about that one too often, but when provoked, that memory always comes back. But yeah, I think I scored one. We were kind of in the playoff hunt my second year in Dallas, and it was a big game against Anaheim. And we were down 1-0 going into the third, and I remember I scored a goal to tie it up, and we ended up winning the game, and it had huge playoff implications. Unfortunately, we missed the playoffs, but at the time, it was a big goal. So I think about that one sometimes too.
As far as personal memories, or I guess in the case of this question, mementos, do you keep that puck? Do you have it somewhere?
No, I won't keep the puck. Just it's got the memory with me. That's good enough.
Yeah. Do you keep other stuff over the course of your
Yeah,
career? You got like a bunch of Connor McDavid sweaters in your office or something?
I collect sticks for sure of teammates I've played with throughout the years. I know a lot of guys they collect sticks of from opponents and stuff. That's not something I've gone around doing. But I have a big collection at home, and I kind of enjoy showing them to family or friends, and telling them about, like, most of them are from teammates I've had, and so it's fun to talk about how good of guys they were, good of players they were as teammates and stuff. So, and yeah, just little trinkets like that. I kept the puck. The first goal I scored after my son was born, I got that puck, and so I gave it to him, so a little keepsake for him. But yeah, I like to collect little trinkets here and there along the way. For when I'm done, we can tell stories about them to so I can prove to my kids that I was in the NHL and stuff.
A stick, not necessarily a little trinket. I don't know how many
Yeah,
you have saved or collected. That's got to take up some space.
yeah. There's a nice display across one wall in my basement that's pretty loaded with sticks. I probably have about 30 of them.
Okay. I assume that these are game sticks that are signed
Yeah,
by the user.
yeah. At the end of the season, usually when you're packing up, quickly ask for a guy to sign a stick for you. So I got all the big boys in Edmonton. Jamie Benn, Patrick Sharp, Ryan Getzlaff, Corey Perry, Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel, like Steven Stamkos, Mark Scheifele, I trained with them in the summer, so I got some from them too. Yeah, but it's a pretty good collection.
Referencing that game winner in game two of the series, crucial score. Also want to reference what ultimately proved the last goal in the series. Your third goal, your third consecutive game with the goal. I should also add that Devin had 4 points across those 4 games. That third goal, also not to be overlooked in the playoffs. Watch that with the fellow media members on replay several times, Devin, as the Firebirds won 3-0. That video of that goal could be used. I mean, you can take that back to Ajax, Ontario, and show that as a clinic in spacing and body positioning to all the little up and comers in your native Ajax. I just noticed that with you over the course of the year and spoken about it with some members of the Firebirds organization staff that your spacing on the ice is impeccable. I don't know for you if that's an inherent talent or if that's just something that you got better at over the years.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say. I think it's a bit of I try to play using hockey sense. You know, you don't want to be thinking out there. You want to be playing instinctual. But at the same time, I'm not the fastest guy or the strongest guy. So a tool of mine is the hockey sense, and with that, I think just knowing where to be out on the ice, offensively and defensively. And I think it's something like I watch a lot of video, so you can learn and pick up a few things here and there. A lot of it too, like there's a certain flow to just the way the game's played, and I think having played it for long enough and playing it professionally for long enough, it becomes not easier, but you just develop those habits maybe a little more. You kind of pick up patterns and sort of the way the flow or the way the puck seems to be more often than not. So it might be a bit of that, and yeah, that was a good one. It was an incredible play by Cam Hughes to find it over there, and it happened quick. So it was fun to see that one going.
Have the younger Firebirds, and of course there are several of them, almost all of whom had stellar seasons this year. Have they picked your brain on that aspect of the game about spacing?
A little bit, yeah. I think there's always an open line of communication. I'm more than happy to answer any kind of questions they have with the X's and O's stuff, or just the stuff away from the rink about living every day as a pro. Because there was a lot of guys when I was their age that were there for me. So I take a lot of pride in paying that forward. And yeah, there's always open lines of communication, open lines of dialogue. And I think it's just everyone's always trying to get better, you know, and myself included. So I'll pick their brains too and ask them questions about what they're seeing out there, and because we're all trying to work towards the same goal, and that's winning hockey games. So with that, there's a lot of communication for sure.
Friends, you're tuning into the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. My guest is Firebirds center Devin Shore, has referenced 4 points rather in 4 games against the Calgary Wranglers in round 2, including goals in 3 straight. Won't soon forget the game winner in overtime of game 2 to even that series. All right, the Calgary series is in the books. We look forward now to some people are calling it the I-10 Showdown. Someone gave me crap. Someone about calling it that. So like the Freeway Showdown, whatever. You guys are 80 miles apart, very close proximity. And by virtue of being so close, Devin, we finally, the first time in Firebirds history, we get the 2-2-1 format. Didn't have that last year. Didn't have it, obviously, in the Calgary series this year. The 2-2-1 format, that's how it should be, correct?
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely makes more sense. I completely understand how that might not be feasible, given the travel against certain opponents. I get it. Obviously, you can't jump on a charter plane right? And just go play the next night. 'Cause those are quite expensive. It'll be nice to have that more traditional 2-2-1 series set up. Because yeah, I agree. I think whenever you can, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, the 2-3. I understand the cost restraints for many of the teams in the American Hockey League. Yeah, it would get expensive to fly again potentially, but it's just the fairest way to do it. The 2-3 could really can kind of, for lack of a more impressive phrase, it can screw somebody over in an unfortunate way, and it kind of almost did that to the Firebirds. Had you not scored that overtime goal, perhaps would have had to come back here as a 1 seed versus a 7, would have had to win 3 consecutive games. So yeah, 2-2-1, that's how it should be. Just spend the money, get the flights. Easy for me to say.
Yeah.
The benefit of not having to travel far, I suppose, will work both ways for both the Reign and the Firebirds, but you got to enjoy that aspect. 80 miles door to door.
Yeah. I mean, from a hockey standpoint, I don't think it presents any advantage to one team. Like you said, I think both teams are just happy about that. It takes less of a toll on your body, and guys get to spend some more time with their families, which is important. So in that regard, it'll be nice for sure. But I don't think it's advantage us or advantage them one way. I think both teams will be pretty pleased with the travel.
Another question along not dissimilar lines. I feel like we asked you guys or asked the coaches about the lengthy rest, which was probably too long of rest before you guys got into the playoffs, 11 consecutive non-game days during your bye, that it did have an impact ultimately on the Firebirds' performance in game one versus Calgary. I think that as the series got in its later stages, and some people I know, colleagues, were still asking you guys about that. I think that the players and coaches alike were namely a little more forthcoming that, and I believe you were in particular, that was just a little too long of a layoff, a little too long to be away from in-game ice. I reference as much because for Ontario, by virtue of their own playoff success, they've swept their 2 opponents. They've now played, heading into game one on Wednesday, they will have just played 1 game in a 10-day stretch. So your assessment of having too much off time during the most important part of the season.
Yeah, it's tricky because playoffs are so intense, and those games are so intense. And you earn the right to rest, which is good, but at the same time, you want to be sharp. So I don't think any team would ever risk, having wanting a season or wanting a series going longer just because one series is so hard to win. If you're fortunate enough to do that quicker, then all the better. That being said, it's just the nature of it. You have to wait for other teams to finish, and you have to wait for the schedule to get released. So there is some extra time. I don't think it'll be as big of an issue, you know, having because they have that playoff timing and playoff intensity under their belt a bit. For us, it was even maybe more so just because it was a long break, and then you jump right into game one of a playoffs. So now both teams know, kind of have the speed of the game, the intensity of the game. There is that fresh enough in the back of your mind, but from our standpoint, if we'll do our best to take advantage of that. We don't have to look too far to know what it feels like to have a long time off, and um, you're always looking to expose any sort of advantage you can get on the opponent, and that's what we're going to try to do. If we can come out hot against them in the first, we're definitely going to try to do that, and I know they're going to do the same. So it'll be about the team that gets to their game the quickest and gets to their playing at the pace they want to play at the quickest.
The same time, after that kind of suspect first game, didn't take long to show graduation. I felt that across the 4 games of the series, you guys just got better and better and got basically right back to the team that we enjoyed since the turn of the 2024 calendar. And by game 4, it felt like Calgary was just like you wore them down. And you guys had an exemplary game 4, really, in all aspects. Did you feel that there was that graduation through the course of that series?
Yeah, I Game four was definitely our most complete, our best game of the series. It was the game we felt that we played to our potential the most, for sure. Um, and it was nice to see, and an opportunity to close out a series. It was cool to see us rise to that challenge, and yeah, we hope to just continue to play fast and continue to play to our potential, with confidence and speed, and we're hoping to do that tomorrow.
And as a baton pass from one series to the next, I don't really think one could really hope, or a team could really hope for much better tape to review than that while heading into a next series.
Yeah, definitely. We there's a lot of positives to draw on that. At the same time, it's a brand new opponent, right? And they play a different structure, so we got to make sure we're doing our homework on that, and each round gets tougher and tougher. So we're gonna have to elevate even more in this series.
As far as Ontario and per that structure, and as far as that team goes, an opponent with which the Firebirds are well versed, obviously faced them 8 times, as I referenced earlier in the show, over the course of the season. 4 wins, 2 losses in overtime to the Reign, save for one game that we'll never again speak about after this program is done back on November 21. I mean, everything was very even, very, very well matched opponents. You personally, Devin, 6 games versus Ontario this year, 5 points in those 6 games. So you had a lot of success. Ontario, as mentioned again earlier in the show, they won the first 2 games of the series. Firebirds took 3 of the final 4 that are played. Discuss Ontario a little bit. What do you see in that opponent?
They're a really good team. We're the two teams left in our division for a reason. They're a great team, and we are too. Their top end talent is very good. Um, they're high skilled forwards, and they're high skilled defensemen are very lethal offensively. They got a great power play, and they make it tough on you, to get to your game and to establish zone time. So it's gonna be a great series. It's gonna be there won't be a lot of free ice out there, but there's belief in our dressing room as well. So we're all more just looking forward to dropping the puck and getting after it.
For folks that watched all of the Calgary games, and I trust many listeners herein did just that, little compare and contrast between those 2 teams from one round to the next. How are they? How are they different?
Um, are they like I Calgary kind of made it a priority to play a very physical brand of hockey. I'm not saying, who knows? I'm not saying Ontario is not going to do that because it's playoffs, right? I wouldn't say we're a crazy physical team that looks to run around, but we are a physical team and that's just the nature of hockey. So I definitely don't want to say they'll be less physical, and with a division title on the line, they may be more physical. Both teams had a really good power play, so it'll be important for us to dial it in on our PK, and they play differently in the neutral zone, so we'll have to make some adjustments in how we're going to get into their end and establish some zone time. But other than that, hockey's a pretty fluid game. We're more focused on what make us successful, and I think they have a game plan, and so do we. And there may be some minor adjustments throughout the course of a series, but overall, it'll be about what team executes their game plan and imposes their game on the opponent the most. That'll be successful.
Another similarity, or at least a similarity between the 2 teams, are pretty darn good 23-year-old goalies. You guys ultimately made short work of Dustin Wolf. The Ontario Reign have same 23-year-old Swede Eric Portillo in net. He's had a fine Calder Cup playoffs thus far. Hope that changes. But is that something that you personally like to spend time on, scouting goalies, watching tape on opposing goalies?
Yeah. Well, we definitely look at video, and look at different tendencies and stuff. But like for me personally, it's more about creating creating chances as much as you can, and just playing the game of averages. And if you create enough chances, some of them are going to go in. And then using the information we get from our scouting reports, that you hope something sticks in the back of your mind for when, if you do get that chance, you can make the most of it.
I'll ask you lastly today, Devin Shore. Really, the one of the most interesting elements of the series, and touched upon this a few times, is the proximity. And be curious to see. I know there's been a lot of discussion amongst the Firebirds faithful about going to games at Ontario and bringing the red sweaters into the black and silver environment. And I trust that the Reign, they have a solid fan base, that they'll do some of the same. Is that something that matters to the players? Is that something in a playoff atmosphere that matters to you guys to an extent?
I think for us players, it's just cool to see. You want to be playing in an intense, exciting atmosphere with the crowd. I know back, like, playing during COVID, it definitely felt like something was missing. Like the energy that the crowds bring, both at home and on the road, is just one of, if not the best part of playing a sport for a living. So, and then in the playoffs, it just gets ratcheted up that much more. So, yeah, it should be two fun, exciting buildings to play in. I know ours will, and they have great fans too. So it's just makes it that much more fun. You're playing the most important hockey of the year, with so much on the line, and the energy that the crowd brings just adds such a great element to it. So I know we're really excited.
And excitement and enthusiasm abounds for this Pac Division Finals. Want to defend that banner hanging aloft that was won last year, and again hanging now in Acrisure Arena. Devin Shore, kudos on an exceptional series. Pardon me, 4 points in 4 games against Calgary, 3-game goal streak. We'll look forward to seeing the Firebirds continue their winning ways, and to you keep popping it in the net as we get into round 3. Thank you so much for your time, man. Look forward to the next series.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
All right, Firebirds flock. It's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. So appreciative of your time, your interest, your ears, your ongoing support of this endeavor. Just as I know the Birds are appreciative of your ongoing support of their squad. As I conclude every show with the Birds motto of one valley, one team, rising together. I mentioned a little bit earlier in this episode, before I even thank our guest, Devin Shore, before I again acknowledge our awesome sponsor, Desert Willow Golf Resort. I mentioned that motto because, and this is no slight, I don't want you to take it as any slight, we did fine attendance-wise in the Round 2 series versus Calgary, but candidly, and these are my thoughts, my words, my personal impressions, I know we can do a little bit better. I know we can fill out that barn like we did last year during much of the season and certainly throughout the postseason. So let's do it. Let's grab every seat. Let's get in there. Let's make some noise. Let's be that one valley. Let's help this team rise together, and let's grab all the available seats for this series. And hell, not just at Acrisure Arena, but again, head on over to OntarioReign.com. Get some tickets for the away game and or games, if necessary, just 80 miles away in Ontario for this I-10 showdown. All right, got my 3 cents in there. Let me thank this episode's guest, center Devin Shore, exemplary play in the Calgary series. Look forward to seeing so much more here in round 3. And of course, our sponsor, Desert Willow Golf Resort, home to the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively. Firecliff now undergoing a renovation, as mentioned, but you can get your tee times for the Mountain View at desertwillow.com. When you're on there, be certain to check out the excellent and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy for all your swing instruction needs. Quick reminder again of the Pac Division Finals schedule. Gets underway in Palm Desert this Wednesday, May 15th, Ontario at CV, 7 p.m. start. Game 2, Friday, May 17th, Ontario at Coachella Valley, 7 p.m. The series then shifts yonder, 80 miles, to Ontario, CV at Reign, Sunday, May 19th, 7 p.m. If necessary, Game 4 would also be at Ontario Friday, May 24th, 7 p.m. start. And again, if necessary, a deciding Game 5 will come back here to Acrisure Arena, Ontario at Coachella Valley, 3 p.m. puck drop if necessary. Look forward to seeing you here. I look forward to seeing you there. I thank you again for all your support of this endeavor. Thank you for tuning in, friends. Let us collectively revel in this postseason as the Birds aim to return to the Calder Cup Finals. And again, as always, one Valley, one team, rising together.